Hello, dear friends, and today we will continue to deal with the questions that you ask in your comments. Could you tell me about a question concerning children? Why do some children become seriously ill from birth? And how does this relate to the law of karma? You and I can pay attention to the fact that sometimes there are families where no one has studied music. No one has painted or composed poetry. However, even at such an early age, a child comes up to an instrument and begins to play music. Although no one taught him, he takes paints or pencils and draws quite professionally. In other words, every child has something special that is inherent in him or her from birth. We can see in many families that from birth each child has a different character. First of all, it is the accumulated experience of many lives. So what a person comes into this world with today is the result of his evolution. This is the result of the experience that he has managed to accumulate. If a child is born in this life with serious illness, and let's say his parents had no such illnesses, and so we can say that it is not genetically transmitted. And where did it come from at such an early age? So then you have to refer to this law of karma, that probably something in the past life was done wrong. And as a result of these wrong actions, the person had a disease that lasted the rest of his life. And with this problem, he entered into this birth. Thus it becomes clear why this happened in the life of this little man. Of course, this is not always the case. And it happens that a very close connection between the child and the parents works. This bond is especially shown in children with their mothers up to the age of 7, and in many ways, the child depends on the condition of his parents, especially the condition of the mother. So again, the practice of working with many people and working with families, working with children, it shows that while working with a child under the age of 7, you very often have to work with the parents to an even greater extent, especially with the mother, and automatically the child's condition begins to improve. When parents begin to analyze what has been done wrong in life, what could have affected the child's condition in this way. And parents then have to learn to live differently and pay attention to the relationship in the family. To a large extent, this is what we have to take into account in our lives. In order for us to be less ill, and for our children to be less ill too. For example, two children are born in one family. Each child has his own character, although their parents are the same. So once again, I point out that, yes, what we are at the moment is the result of all our previous evolution. In dealing with this question, there are methods of regression, where we can look at some past lives. And it helps then to better understand the reasons for what is happening and why it is happening in the present life. Many of you have heard of Professor Grog's technique of using hyperactive holotrophic breathing. Thanks to this technique, a spontaneous falling out into some past life takes place. There are various other regressive techniques as well. I sometimes give practical classes in regressive techniques and point out that it is possible to achieve passing into some past lives in different ways. We also have our own developed technique, when literally, within a minute, you can enter a strictly defined life and see what happened there, and relate what happened in that life to what and how happens in our present life. It is very visual for a person. Exactly helps in some cases to understand what is going on and why there are such techniques today. They can, of course, play a great role. Although, to be honest, in the 90s, I used such regressive techniques very often. And then, to be frank, I'm just tired of using it often, because it is basically the same thing from one life to the next. One person harmed the other, and in the next life they switch roles. And according to the karmic law, the other person is already harming that person. In the next life, they switch roles again. So most of the time it is like this. Such a cycle. And of course such techniques yield very few results, because it is the same thing all the time. However, there are cases when it is really even necessary to pass into some life. And our methodology makes it possible specifically to pass from the current situation to some specific life, which is connected with what is going wrong in the person's life. Today, in such cases, of course, such regressive practices help. They can better help a person to understand what is really going on in his life and why, including the fact that it helps to deal with certain illnesses in people that have a cause in the past life. Today, I'm not going to focus on these examples that have happened in my practice of working with people. Although they were interesting examples, of course, but when in the future we will have more classes on psychosomatics, on the various things that have to be taken into account when working with some illnesses or with some situations. Then we will have to talk about specific cases where excursions into past lives or into some past lives help to actually correct something in the person's present life, and sometimes and in a serious way to improve his health. Another question asked in the comments is this: can you please tell us about the concept of law and the Constitution? What is the difference between them? And what is the divine law? If we first consider the concept of divine law, we can say it is the divine law of harmony. In human nature, we can find a reflection of this law in this concept. To live according to conscience is when a person is guided by it. As I have pointed out in our past meetings, there are those in society who are what people call white crows, who do better than even those people who are governed by the laws of that society. And as we said, when there are more people who act according to their conscience, and many things cannot be ignored, the laws in society change as well. We said that the state or society, it protects itself by creating certain laws. And these laws exist for a certain period of time in accordance with the level of development in a given society. Therefore, each society develops for itself its own specific laws, which the members of that society must obey. If we're talking about the constitution, then the constitution is the supreme law for the state. And it should naturally be the guide for the inhabitants of the state. Who has not yet subscribed, subscribe to our channel. We still have a lot of various topics and practical classes ahead, in which we will gradually reveal all the new facets of the knowledge, which has already been used by mankind since ancient times, something that humanity will still use in the future. Stay tuned to our channels and keep your comments coming. And much success to you in comprehending the science of life.